"Don't make this harder, old man. One signature and it's done. You don't need this money anyway." Those words sliced into me like a rusted blade, whispered through my son-in-law's fake smile as he leaned in across the cold metal table at the bank. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My hand trembled over the pen they shoved in front of me, the fluorescent lights above buzzing like angry hornets. All around us, people waited in line, checking their phones, unaware that my entire life was about to be stolen with one careless stroke of ink. My daughter's sweet smile masked the calculation in her eyes, as if she had rehearsed this moment 100 times. My throat burned, but no sound came out. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears, the sweat running down my back, the humiliation of being cornered in public by the very people I had sacrificed everything for. But what they didn't know was that beneath my silence, something inside me was waking up. After decades of giving, of bending, of being used, I was preparing to rise. My name is Richard Miller. I am 69 years old, and every wrinkle on my face feels like it carries the weight of a sacrifice I once made for my family. My hair is silver, cropped short, and my frame is thinner than I would like to admit. Decades of factory work bend my shoulders, but my voice is soft, and people often mistake my silence for weakness. For as long as I can remember, I have lived for others, not for myself. I live in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, in a small house that has seen better days. The paint on the porch is peeling, the roof groans when the wind is too strong, and the backyard fence leans like a tired old man ready to collapse. Yet this house is more than wood and nails. It is a museum of memories, my late wife's laughter echoing through the kitchen, the smell of her pies filling the rooms every Sunday afternoon, my daughter's footsteps running down the hallway. My wife passed away 3 years ago, and since then, silence has become the loudest sound inside these walls. My daughter, Laura Miller, is 35 now. She has wavy brown hair that always seems perfectly styled, and a smile that charms everyone she meets. To neighbors and friends, she is a devoted daughter and a caring mother. But behind closed doors, her sweetness carries an edge, sharp enough to cut through the trust of even those who love her most. I tell myself she is still the little girl I raised, the one whose scraped knees I used to bandage. But sometimes, when I look into her eyes, I no longer see innocence, I see calculation. Her husband, Eric Wilson, is 38, tall, broad-shouldered, with cold eyes that never seem to soften, even when he smiles. He is the type of man who shakes your hand too firmly, as if to remind you that he is stronger. Eric has a way of making every conversation about money, how much he needs, how unfair life is, how others owe him something. Over the years, I have watched him drag Laura into debts, schemes, and excuses. And each time, I step in with my wallet, telling myself I am saving my daughter, though deep down I fear I am only feeding a fire that refuses to die. Then there is Sophie, my granddaughter. She is 8 years old, with big eyes that hold the kind of innocence the world tries so hard to erase. When she laughs, the whole room lights up. She loves drawing rainbows on scrap paper and reading stories about princesses who find their way home. To me, she is proof that love still exists in its purest form. I often think that if not for her, I might have given up long ago. She hugs me tighter than anyone else, and when she whispers, "I love you, Grandpa," I feel something in me still believes in family. Over the years, I have given Laura more than I ever thought I had. I paid for her education when she wanted to attend a private university. I emptied savings accounts, sold the watch my father gave me, and even cashed out part of my retirement just to make sure she never felt the struggles I had known. When she married Eric, I gave them money for a down payment on their house, $40,000, money I had worked decades to save. When Eric lost his job, I covered his debts, believing his promises that he would pay me back once he was back on his feet. But he never stood on his own feet. He leaned on mine. When Sophie wanted to join dance classes, I paid the fees. When Laura wanted a new car, I signed the check. When their refrigerator broke, I was the one who replaced it. Each sacrifice felt small at the time, but together they built a chain I didn't realize was wrapping tighter and tighter around me. What once felt like acts of love have become obligations, demanded rather than appreciated. I try to justify it. I tell myself, that's what fathers do. They provide, they give. But late at night, when the house is dark and quiet, I sit in my worn recliner and stare at my hands. Hands that ache from years of labor, hands that built so much but are now empty. And I ask myself, at what point does giving stop being love and start becoming surrender? Still, I cling to memories. I remember Laura as a little girl sitting on my shoulders during the 4th of July fireworks, her laughter ringing in my ears. I remember her teenage years when she would come home heartbroken from school, and I would sit at the kitchen table with her, talking until the pain in her eyes faded. I remember walking her down the aisle on her wedding day, holding her hand so tightly, wishing her happiness with every step. I remember Sophie's first birthday, when she smeared cake across her cheeks and giggled as if joy were the only language she would ever need. But those memories are shadows compared to the reality I face now. My sacrifices have become debts in their eyes, not gifts. Instead of gratitude, I see expectation. Instead of love, I see entitlement. Every time they ask for more, a part of me feels smaller, invisible, like a ghost drifting through my own life. The spaces of my world reflect this slow erosion. The backyard where I once grilled burgers for family cookouts now sits empty, the grill rusting, the chairs stacked in a corner. The living room, once filled with laughter, now feels heavy with silence. Even the walls seem to lean closer, as if they too are waiting for me to break. And yet I continue, because that is who I am. A father, a giver, a man who has spent a lifetime believing that his worth is measured by how much he can sacrifice. But deep inside, something shifts. It is faint, like the first crack in a dam that has held too long. Each time Eric demands more, each time Laura smiles that rehearsed smile, each time I see Sophie caught in the middle, I feel that crack widening. I tell myself I endure because I love them. But sometimes in the quiet, I wonder if I endure because I'm afraid of what will happen if I finally say no. Afraid of losing them, afraid of being alone, afraid of admitting that after all these years of giving, I might have been nothing more than a resource, a wallet in a worn-out body. Still, I breathe. I get up each morning, make coffee, and carry the weight. I go to the bank to withdraw cash when they ask, drive to their house when something breaks, and nod silently when Eric explains why it's necessary. But beneath my calm surface, the tension builds. Because what they don't know is that the chains they have wrapped around me are starting to cut, and a man can only bleed for so long before he chooses to fight back. It is a Tuesday afternoon when Laura calls me. Her voice flows through the phone with practiced sweetness, the kind of tone that once convinced me she could do no wrong. "Dad, I just need you to come with me to the bank. It's just a small document, nothing complicated. 10 minutes, I promise." I sit at my kitchen table, my coffee cooling in front of me, my heart tightening in my chest. Something in her voice feels too polished, too smooth, but she is my daughter. When she asks, I go. That has always been the rule. I drive to the bank slowly, the radio humming low, my hands clenching the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The building looms ahead, glass doors glinting under the afternoon sun, a place I have entered countless times without fear. Today, though, my stomach knots. Inside, the lobby is crowded. The harsh fluorescent lights flicker slightly, buzzing like angry insects. The carpet smells faintly of dust and old paper. People line up at the counters, some tapping at their phones, others holding checks in their hands. Everyone moves with purpose, unaware that my world is about to tilt. Laura greets me near the entrance. She looks radiant, her brown hair falling in waves, her smile wide enough to charm any stranger watching. She takes my arm, her grip firmer than it needs to be. "Come on, Dad," she whispers, pulling me toward a corner office where Eric is already waiting. My pulse quickens as I see him. Eric stands tall, his arms folded across his chest. His suit looks expensive but slightly wrinkled, like a costume worn too often. His cold blue eyes fix on me as if I am already an inconvenience. "Richard," he says, my name dropping from his mouth without warmth. He gestures toward the chair across from him. Papers are spread neatly on the table, stacks of white that seem to glow under the relentless lights. I lower myself into the chair, my bones aching, the pen resting on the edge of the documents like a snake waiting to strike. Laura sits beside me, her perfume strong, her smile steady. "It's just a signature, Dad. Nothing big. Just routine." Her voice carries the lilt of reassurance, but her eyes flick quickly to Eric, betraying nerves. I glance down at the papers. The words blur: mortgage, transfer, authorization, insurance. Each phrase feels heavy, dangerous, like traps disguised as ink. I squint, trying to focus, but before I can read further, Eric leans forward. His hand clamps around my wrist, his grip too strong to be gentle. He pushes the pen toward me, his face stretched into a smile that fools the casual onlooker. "Just sign," he murmurs, his voice low enough that only I can hear. "Don't make this harder, old man. One signature, and it's done. You don't need this money anyway." His breath is hot, tinged with coffee, his words slicing through me. My throat closes, and shame floods my chest like boiling water. I look at Laura, searching for the daughter I once knew. Her smile holds steady for the world, but her eyes reveal her intent, sharp, determined, a blade sheathed in sweetness. She nods slightly, a silent command to pick up the pen. Around us, the bank hums. A child whines near the entrance, coins clink at the teller's desk, printers spit out receipts. But inside this small office, time feels frozen, the air heavy enough to crush me. I bite the inside of my cheek until the taste of iron fills my mouth. My hand trembles as I lift the pen, hovering over the blank line. In my mind, I see the future, the ink bleeding into the page, the last of my wife's insurance money vanishing, my freedom evaporating with one stroke. I imagine myself empty, nothing left to give, nothing left to live for. Eric's grip tightens. His nails dig into my skin. "Come on," he says through clenched teeth, still smiling for the invisible cameras. "Don't embarrass yourself." Laura leans closer, her hand brushing mine, her voice low but edged with steel. "Dad, please, do this for Sophie. Think of her future." The mention of my granddaughter pierces deeper than any threat. Sophie, 8 years old, eyes wide with wonder, her laughter bright enough to melt stone. She is innocent, pure. The thought of harming her future twists my heart into knots. Yet I know the truth. This signature is not about Sophie's well-being. It is about their greed. Still, the guilt digs in. I glance at the teller outside the office. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, her brow furrowed as she glances our way. She whispers something to a colleague, her eyes narrowing. For a fleeting second, I wonder if she senses what is happening, if she sees the fear I cannot hide. But no one moves. The world goes on, oblivious. The pen trembles in my hand, the tip hovering dangerously close to the line. My chest heaves. My heart pounds so loudly I fear others can hear it. I want to scream, to push the papers away, to shout that I will not be treated like this. But the words choke in my throat. Silence presses down, heavy and suffocating. Eric leans in even closer, his voice sharp. "Sign it, or I swear you'll regret this." His smile never falters. His eyes burn with threat. Something inside me shifts. It is not loud, not obvious, but subtle, a crack forming in a wall that has held too long. I press the pen down, hard enough to leave a dent in the paper, but not enough to form a signature. My jaw clenches. My silence changes shape. It is no longer the silence of surrender. It is the silence of resistance, quiet but steady. Laura notices. For the first time, her smile falters. Her eyes flash with irritation, then fear. She leans closer, her voice sharp under her breath. "Don't you dare embarrass me, Dad. After everything we've done for you." Her words strike harder than Eric's threats. After everything they've done for me, my mind reels. I see the years stretched behind me, the tuition checks, the down payment, the debts I paid, the gifts I gave, the hours of labor traded for their comfort. The sacrifices that became invisible. My chest tightens, anger swirling beneath the shame. I want to speak, to throw the truth at her, to remind her who I am, what I have given. But my lips remain sealed, my tongue heavy. The moment slips by, my silence mistaken again for weakness. Yet inside, I feel the shift grow stronger, a seed planted in soil long thought barren. Eric drums his fingers impatiently on the table. His smile thins, his eyes narrowing to slits. Laura adjusts her hair, her grin returning for anyone who might glance in. To the rest of the bank, we look like a family handling business. But I know better. I am the prey cornered by predators wearing familiar faces, and for the first time in years, I feel the faint stirring of defiance. This is only the beginning. Eric taps his finger against the stack of papers, each thud steady and sharp like a hammer driving a nail. "Let's stop wasting time," he says, his voice calm but clipped. "Richard, you've already given Laura so much. The car, the tuition, the house down payment. What's one more signature?" His words land like stones. He recites my sacrifices as if they are transactions, not acts of love. My throat tightens. I glance at Laura, hoping for a flicker of compassion, but she only tilts her head, her smile rehearsed. "Dad, you know you've always been there for us. This is no different. Just another step." "Another step toward what? Toward the cliff edge where nothing of me remains?" I shift in my chair, my palms sweating. Eric leans closer. "We're not asking for much, just 20,000 more. It's to save Sophie's home. Do you really want your granddaughter living on the streets?" His tone drips with false concern, his eyes cold and calculating. The mention of Sophie twists my insides again. I see her small hands clutching a crayon, her voice asking me to read her favorite story one more time. I cannot bear the thought of her suffering. But deep down, I know this is not about saving Sophie. It is about feeding Eric's endless hunger. I swallow hard, my lips pressed shut. Silence again. Laura reaches for my arm, her touch light, her eyes shimmering with what looks like sympathy but feels like manipulation. "Dad, please. You've always told me family comes first. Think about what Mum would want. She'd want us safe, stable." At the mention of my late wife, grief slams into me like a wave. I see her smile, the way she used to hum in the kitchen, the warmth she carried into every room. She trusted me to protect this family, to hold it together, even after she was gone. And now, her memory is being used as leverage against me. I lower my gaze to the documents. Numbers glare back 20,000, 30,000. The ink is cold, precise, unforgiving. Eric nudges the pen closer. "It's not just about us. It's about Sophie's future. Don't you want her to have the best? New furniture, lessons, opportunities she can't get otherwise?" His list grows longer with every word. Vacations, classes, a new car for Laura. The demands pile high, heavy on my chest, suffocating. Each one cloaked in the name of family. Each one sharpening the blade pressed against my dignity. I press my hands flat on the table to keep them from trembling. I want to shout, to push the papers back into their faces, to demand, "When is it enough?" But my voice locks in my throat. The shame of making a scene in public grips me. All around us, people still move depositing checks, counting bills, chatting casually. No one knows I am being stripped bare here in plain sight. Across the room, the young teller keeps glancing over. Her brow furrows, her lips pressing into a thin line. She nudges the man beside her, whispers something. I catch her eyes for a second, and in that glance, I wonder if she can read the plea in mine. But Eric and Laura lean in, filling the space, their presence like a storm cloud swallowing light. "This isn't difficult, Richard," Eric says, his voice low, dangerous. "You sign, we walk out, everyone's happy. Or you refuse, and you're the reason your granddaughter suffers." Laura's smile flickers into a frown. "Dad, why are you hesitating? After everything we've done for you." Her words echo from earlier, cutting deep, distorting history into debt. I clench my jaw. My silence feels heavier, harder to carry. Each second stretches, thick with tension. My heart pounds against my ribs, the lights above buzzing louder, my vision narrowing to the single line waiting for my name. And then Eric speaks again, his words colder than before. "This is your wife's insurance money, isn't it? 30,000. Just sitting there. What good is it doing for you, an old man alone in that house? At least, let it help your family." His mention of that final sum, the last gift my wife left me, makes my chest burn. That money was meant to keep me safe in old age, a cushion against loneliness and frailty. Hearing Eric lay claim to it as if it belongs to him shatters something inside me. I grip the edge of the table, my knuckles white. I know the truth now. If I sign today, I will not only lose the money, I will lose the last piece of myself. Eric's words hang in the air like smoke I cannot escape. 30,000, he repeats, his tone smooth, persuasive. That's all we need. Then you can rest easy, knowing you've secured Sophie's life. He leans back, his fingers steepled, his posture relaxed in the way of a man who believes the outcome is already his. Laura nods quickly, her voice softening into that familiar tone that used to melt my heart. "Dad, you've always told me you wanted the best for me, for Sophie. This is your chance to prove it again. Just one more time. After this, we won't ask for anything else." But I know those words are lies. I've heard them too many times before. "Just this once, Dad. After this, it's the last time." Yet the requests always return, larger, heavier, more ruthless. My sacrifices are never remembered as gifts, only as obligations that must continue. I stare at the papers, the bold numbers glaring back at me, 30,000. The final cushion, the last safety net, the only tangible piece of my wife's love that remains in this world. To sign it away is to erase her final whisper to me. "Take care of yourself, Richard. Promise me you will live, not just survive." My throat closes. I can almost hear her voice now, tender and firm, echoing in the sterile bank office. Eric's patience thins, his jaw tightens, his cold eyes narrowing. He leans closer, lowering his voice to a hiss. "You're making this harder than it has to be. Sign and we all walk out smiling. Refuse and you'll regret it. Don't forget you're old, Richard. You can't do this alone." The words sting, cruel in their truth. I am old. My body aches each morning. My hands tremble more than they used to. My nights stretch long with loneliness. But does that mean I should surrender the last piece of dignity I own? Laura's eyes glisten as if she is on the verge of tears. She grips my hand, pressing it toward the pen. "Dad, think of Sophie. She deserves everything we didn't have. Please, don't fail her." Her voice breaks, but I see through it. The tears are rehearsed. The act is polished. Yet the guilt still slams into me, because Sophie's face fills my mind, the way she curls into my lap, the way she laughs when I make silly voices, the way she whispers, "I love you, Grandpa," as if I am her whole world. I feel trapped between two truths, my love for Sophie and the knowledge that her parents are using her as a shield for their greed. Across the lobby, the young teller watches again. Her gaze lingers too long this time, her lips pressed tight. She whispers something to the man beside her, and he nods subtly. My chest tightens, not with fear, but with the faintest flicker of hope. Someone sees. Eric slaps his palm flat on the table, the sharp sound turning heads briefly before the noise of the bank swallows it. He forces a laugh, covering his frustration. "Richard, you're dragging this out. Don't embarrass yourself. You've always been a provider. Be the man you've always been. Sign the damn papers." "Red." The sudden edge in his voice makes me flinch. For a heartbeat, I feel like a boy again, scolded, diminished. But then something inside me shifts, subtle yet powerful, like a stone rolling free after years of pressure. I remember nights at the factory, my hands raw from labor, working double shifts so Laura could have her dream school. I remember selling my father's watch, the last heirloom he left me, just to cover Eric's debts. I remember emptying my savings so they could keep their house. Each memory stings, but together they ignite something fierce in me. I lift my eyes to Eric's, steady despite the tremor in my hands. For the first time, I let silence hang, not as surrender, but as defiance. I do not pick up the pen. I do not nod. I simply look at him, and my stillness speaks louder than words. Laura's smile cracks. Her eyes flash with anger, the sweetness gone. "Dad," she hisses under her breath, "don't you dare make a scene. People are watching." Yes, people are watching, and for once, I want them to see. I want the world to see that I am not just a wallet in a worn-out body. Eric shifts uncomfortably, his jaw tight. He senses the shift. He leans in again, his whisper harsh. "You're nothing without us. Alone in that old house, you'll rot. At least this way, you'll have a purpose helping us. Don't fool yourself into thinking you matter otherwise." The cruelty of his words lands like a final blow, but instead of crushing me, they ignite the fire already smoldering in my chest. Because for the first time in decades, I realize the truth. I do matter. Not because of what I give, but because I am still here, breathing, choosing. My grip loosens on the pen. I let it drop to the table with a small clatter. The sound is soft, but it rings in my ears like a bell. Laura's eyes widen. Eric's face darkens. And I know, in that exact moment, that if I sign, I lose everything. Not just money, not just security, but the rest of my life. The pen lies on the table, its metallic click still echoing in my ears. For the first time in years, I feel a strange calm wash over me. My hand is free, though my heart pounds so hard I can feel it in my throat. Laura's eyes widen in disbelief, her mouth tightening into a thin line. Eric's face darkens, a shadow creeping over his features as his jaw clenches. I lower my gaze, hiding the storm inside me, and I reach for a scrap of paper on the corner of the desk. My hand trembles, but not from fear, this time from urgency. Slowly, carefully, I scribble with the same pen they tried to force into my hand. "Help. I am being forced." The words are messy, jagged, written in a rush, but they are the truest words I have put on paper in years. Eric shifts, his cold eyes flicking toward me. "What are you doing?" he asks sharply. My heart leaps, but I steady my breath and pretend to jot a note to myself, sliding the paper subtly to the edge of the table. When Laura leans forward to adjust her hair, I take my chance. I push the slip toward the bank manager, Mr. Harris, who sits at the next desk over, supervising the teller stations. Our eyes meet for a split second. He glances down, reads the note, and then looks back at me. His face remains unreadable, professional. But I see the slightest flicker in his eyes, the kind of recognition that tells me I am no longer invisible. Without hesitation, his hand moves under his desk. A silent gesture. My pulse races. Did he press a button? Did he call for help? Eric and Laura continue to whisper urgently to each other, oblivious. I sit still, my palms flat on the table to hide the tremor in my fingers. The hum of the bank machines grows louder in my ears. I hear the faint whir of a printer, the shuffle of feet, the cough of an impatient customer. Yet beneath it all, there is a new sound in my chest, the faint beating of hope. Laura leans in again, her voice honeyed but strained. "Dad, you're making this so much harder than it needs to be. We're family. We love you. Why are you resisting us?" Her words sting, but they feel hollow now. Rehearsed lines in a play I no longer wish to act in. Eric, less patient, slams his hand on the table again, his voice sharp. "Stop stalling, old man. You've dragged this long enough. Sign or—" He stops mid-sentence as the office door creaks open. Mr. Harris steps inside, calm, collected, his tie perfectly knotted, his expression neutral. Behind him stand two uniformed security guards, their presence quiet but unmistakable. "Mr. Miller," Harris says smoothly, "could I have a word with you in my office? Just a quick matter of clarification on these documents." He gestures toward the door with a polite smile, but his eyes lock onto mine with silent reassurance. Laura stiffens. "Is that necessary? My father was just about to sign." Eric cuts in, his voice edged with irritation. Yeah, why the interruption? We don't need a babysitter here. Harris doesn't flinch. Bank policy, he says calmly. We always double-check large transfers with the account holder directly. It won't take a moment. Before Eric can protest further, one of the guards steps closer. Not threatening, but firm. Sir, if you'll allow us. His tone leaves no room for argument. I rise slowly, my knees trembling. But for the first time in years, it isn't from weakness. I clutch the slip of paper tighter in my palm, and as I pass Harris, he gives me the faintest nod. My breath catches in my throat. I am not alone. Not anymore. Inside Harris's private office, the door clicks shut behind us. The noise of the lobby fades, replaced by the quiet hum of an air vent. Harris sits across from me, folding his hands on the desk. His eyes soften, his voice lowering. Mr. Miller, I saw your note. Do you want to tell me what's happening? The dam inside me breaks. Words spill out years of sacrifice, of debts paid, of being manipulated, cornered, drained. I speak of Laura's demands, Eric's threats, the endless cycle of giving until nothing remains. My voice cracks, shame tightening around my chest, but Harris listens quietly, his gaze steady. When I finish, my hands shake, and I bury my face in them. I don't know what to do anymore, I whisper. They're my family. But if I give them this, I lose everything. I lose myself. Harris nods slowly, his expression grave but compassionate. Mr. Miller, what you're describing is financial abuse. It's more common than people think, especially against elders. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to give them anything. The word abuse strikes me hard, heavier than any insult Eric has thrown at me. Abuse, the truth I've been too ashamed to name. For a moment, the shame deepens, but then relief, because naming it gives it shape, and what has shape can be fought. Harris leans forward, his tone firm. We can stop this transfer. We can flag your account, make sure no one accesses it without your explicit permission, and if you'd like, we can notify the authorities. You don't have to face them alone anymore. My chest heaves. Tears blur my vision, but I blink them back. For the first time in years, I feel the faint possibility of freedom. Not the kind that comes from sacrifice, but the kind that comes from reclaiming what was taken. I nod slowly, my voice trembling but clear. I don't want to sign. Not anymore. This money is mine. My wife left it for me. It's all I have left. Harris places a steady hand on mine. Then you won't lose it. Not today. As the guards escort me back toward the office where Laura and Eric wait, my heart pounds. My hands still shake, but they are not empty anymore. For the first time in decades, I am holding on to something precious, my will. I step back into the room, and both of them look up. Laura's face is pale, her eyes darting nervously. Eric's jaw works, his fists clenching. They expect me to sit down, to pick up the pen again. But I don't. I stand tall, my voice steady though quiet. I will not sign. This money is mine. The words hang in the air, heavy, final. And as I see their faces twist with anger and disbelief, I realize something profound. For the first time in a lifetime of silence, I have found my voice. The silence after my words is thick enough to choke on. I will not sign. This money is mine. For a moment, no one moves. Laura blinks rapidly, her painted smile crumbling like a mask, too thin to hide the truth. Eric's fists tighten on the table, his knuckles white, his jaw grinding as if he is chewing on rage. Mr. Harris remains by the door, calm, his presence solid as a wall. The two guards stand just outside, visible through the glass panel, their stances firm. I know I am safe for the first time in years, truly safe, but still my body trembles with the weight of what I have just done. Laura recovers first. Her voice rises, shrill, tinged with panic. Dad, what are you doing? This is insane. We came all this way, we set everything up, and now you're embarrassing us in front of strangers? Her eyes glisten with sudden tears, perfectly timed. But I see the performance now. I see the calculation beneath the shimmer. Eric surges to his feet, his chair screeching against the tile. Don't play games, old man. You think you're strong now, standing behind security? You think this makes you a hero? He leans across the table, towering over me. His breath is hot, his eyes narrowed to slits of fury. You're nothing without us. Nothing. For a moment, fear claws at me. My shoulders tense, my heart races, the instinct to shrink back rising like an old habit. But then I remember my wife's voice, the note I scribbled, Harris's nod, the guards outside. I straighten my spine, my voice low but steady. I have been nothing but giving, and now I am done. Eric's face twists. He slams his fist onto the table, rattling the stack of papers. You ungrateful. Before he can finish, one of the guards steps into the room. Sir, he says firmly, sit down. The authority in his voice cuts through Eric's anger like a blade. For a second, Eric hesitates, his rage caught between pride and reality. Then, slowly, he sinks back into his chair, his jaw tight, his eyes never leaving mine. Laura clutched my arm, her voice softer now, pleading. Dad, please, don't do this. We need you. Sophie needs you. Without this, we could lose everything. Her tears spill now, real or fake I can no longer tell. But I hear the echo of every time she has said just this once, and I know how false it rings. I pull my arm gently from her grip. You won't lose everything. You'll lose what you shouldn't have asked for in the first place. The words feel like fire leaving my mouth, burning through years of silence. My hands still shake, but not from weakness, from the power of finally speaking truth. Eric leans back, laughing bitterly. So what now? You think you're better than us? You think anyone cares about some washed-up old man clinging to a few dollars? His voice drips with venom, but beneath it I hear something else, fear. Harris clears his throat, his tone calm but firm. Mr. Miller has made his decision. This account belongs solely to him. No transaction will occur without his direct approval. That's final. The authority in his voice seals the moment, like a gavel striking. My chest loosens, the air flowing freer than it has in years. Laura covers her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Whether it is grief or frustration, I cannot tell. Eric mutters curses under his breath, low enough not to draw the guards' full attention, but loud enough for me to hear. I sit still, absorbing the storm, feeling the ground beneath me steady for the first time. I know the confrontation is not over. Outside this bank, there will be words, accusations, maybe even silence that cuts deeper than any scream. But here, now, I have stood my ground, and in this moment, that is enough. The room holds its breath. My words still hang in the air like a sharp blade. I will not sign. This money is mine. Laura lowers her hands from her face, her eyes red, her mascara smudging slightly. For a flicker of a second, she looks like the little girl I once carried on my shoulders during fireworks, scared and small. But then her expression hardens, the performance returning. You're choosing money over your own family, she says bitterly, her voice trembling with rage disguised as sorrow. After everything we've done for you, after all the love we've given, you turn your back on us. I meet her gaze, steady. Love doesn't come with a price tag, Laura, and if it does, it isn't love. Oh, Eric barks a harsh laugh, leaning forward again. Listen to this man preaching now. You think you're wise? You're just old, weak. Soon you'll be useless. And then what? No one will want you, not even her. He jabs a finger toward Laura. We've been the only ones who cared enough to stick around. The words cut deep, not because they are true, but because once I believed them. I believed that my worth was tied to what I could give, that without my sacrifices I would be discarded. But now, staring at Eric's sneer, I feel a new strength rise in me. I lean forward slightly, my voice calm but sharp. No, you stayed because of what I gave, and now that I'm keeping what's mine, you can't stand it. Eric's face darkens, his body tense like a coiled spring. He half rises from his chair, but the guard at the door steps forward immediately, his voice firm. Sit down, sir. Laura reaches for him, tugging at his sleeve, her voice frantic. "Eric, stop! Not here!" All the tension cracks the air, heavy and dangerous. For a moment, I fear he will lash out, his anger spilling into violence, but the guard's steady presence holds him in place. He sinks back into his chair, muttering curses under his breath, his eyes burning holes into me. I breathe deeply, my chest rising and falling, my pulse steadying. For the first time in decades, I feel taller than the man trying to intimidate me. Laura's voice softens again, the pendulum swing from anger to pleading. "Dad, if you don't help us, what will happen to Sophie? She'll suffer. She's just a child. Don't you love her enough to save her?" At Sophie's name, my heart squeezes. Her laughter, her hugs, her drawings of rainbows, they flash in my mind like a slideshow. The guilt presses in, but I push it back, with every ounce of strength I have. I force myself to remember the truth. Sophie is innocent, but Laura and Eric are not. They are using her as a weapon against me. I love Sophie, I say firmly, and that's why I won't let her grow up thinking love means exploitation. If she learns that from me, then I've failed her more than I could ever fail you. The room stills again. Laura's lips part, but no words come. Eric scoffs, shaking his head, but I see the crack in their armor. My refusal has landed. Mr. Harris clears his throat, his tone calm and final. This conversation is over. Mr. Miller has made his decision. There will be no transfer today or ever without his direct consent. He rises, signaling the guards. It's time to go. Eric shoots to his feet, his face red, his voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this, Richard. Don't think you can just walk away from us. We'll be back. We'll find another way." I stand too, though my knees shake. I meet his glare head on. "Not anymore. You've taken enough. This ends today." Laura's eyes fill with tears again. Real or false, I can no longer tell. "Dad," she whispers, her voice breaking. For a moment I almost falter. Almost. But then I remember the years of silence, the decades of sacrifice, the weight of chains I carried without question. And I know this is not cruelty. This is survival. The guards escort us out of the office. Customers glance up, curious, their murmurs filling the space. For once, I don't feel ashamed of being seen. I feel liberated. Each step I take toward the exit feels like reclaiming a piece of myself I thought was lost forever. As I pass through the glass doors into the sunlight, the air hits me fresh and clean, like the first breath after surfacing from deep water. My hands still shake, my body still trembles, but inside, something new grows, something strong, unyielding. I am no longer their prisoner. And though the road ahead will not be easy, I know one thing with absolute certainty. The moment I said no was the moment my life took a new direction. The sunlight outside the bank blinds me as I step into the open air. For a long moment, I just stand there, breathing, my chest rising and falling as though I have surfaced from deep water after years of holding my breath. My knees tremble, my hands still shake, but something inside me feels lighter. The chains I carried for decades loosen, piece by piece, as if they are falling away with every step I take. I walk to my car slowly, the autumn breeze brushing against my face, carrying with it the faint smell of burning leaves from a distant yard. Laura and Eric follow behind, their whispers sharp, their anger barely contained. I don't turn around. I know their eyes are burning holes into my back, but I keep moving forward. For once, I am not their servant, not their answer, not their victim. I am simply myself. The drive home feels strange. The streets are the same, the gas station on the corner, the little diner with the flickering neon sign, the kids on bicycles racing down the sidewalk. But the world looks different through my eyes now. Every mile I put between the bank and my house feels like a victory, like a declaration that I am no longer trapped. The steering wheel vibrates under my hands, and though I am still shaking, I grip it firmly. I am in control. When I pull into my driveway, my old house greets me like a loyal friend. The porch creaks, the paint peels, the fence leans, but tonight I see none of it as shame. This house has sheltered me through storms, through loss, through years of sacrifice. It stands with me still. As I step inside, silence greets me. For 3 years since my wife's passing, that silence has felt heavy, suffocating. But tonight, the silence feels different. It feels like peace. I walk into the kitchen, the place where my wife used to hum while baking pies. I close my eyes, and for a moment, I hear her again, soft and steady, reminding me that love is not meant to drain you dry. I did it. I whisper into the empty air. My voice cracks, but the words are steady. I said no. My throat burns with tears I do not shed, but in the quiet of that kitchen, I feel her presence. And I know she would be proud. The first few days are hard. The phone rings constantly, Laura's number flashing across the screen. Sometimes she begs, sometimes she accuses, sometimes she simply screams. Eric's voice appears on the machine too, low and venomous, threatening in ways he thinks will scare me back into submission. I don't answer. I let the phone ring until the machine picks up. Each time I resist, each time I refuse to lift the receiver, I feel my back grow straighter, my breath grow easier. The loneliness stings at first. For so many years, I defined myself by what I gave to them. Without that role, I feel hollow. I cook meals for 1 scrambled eggs in the morning, a bowl of soup at night. I sit at the table alone, staring at the empty chair across from me, the one my wife once filled. My hands tremble as I eat, not from age, but from the weight of solitude pressing against me. But slowly, the quiet begins to shift. It no longer feels like a punishment. It feels like a canvas waiting to be painted. One evening, I pull out an old box from the closet. Inside are paints and brushes I haven't touched in years, relics of a hobby I abandoned long ago. I set up a canvas in the living room and let the brush glide across the surface. The strokes are awkward at first, clumsy, but soon colors spill out deep blues, warm yellows, streaks of green. I don't paint perfection, I paint release. The more I paint, the more I remember who I was before the years of bending and giving. I paint landscapes of places I dreamed of visiting. I paint my wife's smile, my daughter as a little girl with her hair in braids, my granddaughter Sophie with a rainbow stretching above her head. Each painting feels like a prayer, a reclaiming of memories they tried to twist into chains. I also begin to step outside the house more. At first, just short walks around the block, my body stiff but grateful for movement. The neighbors nod politely, some stopping to chat. One older man, James, waves me over to his porch one afternoon. We talk about weather, about football, about nothing important. But as I leave, I realize my chest feels lighter. Connection doesn't always demand sacrifice. Sometimes it's as simple as sharing a few words with someone who sees you. A week later, I gather my courage and walk into the community center. I have heard about a support group for elders dealing with financial abuse, and though shame gnaws at me, I sit down in the circle of folding chairs. At first, I listen. An older woman talks about her son draining her savings. A man with tired eyes describes his daughter demanding money for years. Their words sting, but they also soothe, because they remind me I am not alone. When it is my turn to speak, my throat tightens. For a moment, I want to stay silent, to let the shame smother me again. But then I think of the note I slipped to Mr. Grathings. Harris, of the guards standing at my side, of my wife's voice whispering that I deserve more. I speak. I tell them about Laura, about Eric, about the years of sacrifice, about the moment at the bank when I finally found my voice. My words shake, but they come. When I finish, the room is quiet. Then, slowly, heads nod. Not pity, understanding. And I realize I have found a place where my story does not make me weak. It makes me strong. The days that follow are not without pain. I still ache when I think of Sophie, when I wonder if Laura will keep her from me now. I still wake in the night with fear gnawing at me, afraid of being truly alone. But alongside the fear grows something new: relief, freedom, even joy. I begin to fix the house little by little. I paint the fence white, plant flowers in the yard, clean the old grill that has rusted in the corner. I cook not just to survive, but to enjoy trying new recipes, seasoning food the way my wife once did. The house begins to feel alive again, not with demands, but with care. In the evenings, I sit in the living room surrounded by canvases, each one bursting with color, each one a reminder that I am still here. Sometimes I write in a journal letters to my wife, telling her I finally listened. Letters to Sophie, explaining that true love cannot be bought. Letters to myself, reminding me that it is never too late to start again. I still love my daughter. That love will never die. But I understand now that love without respect is not love at all. And if choosing myself means losing her, then so be it, because I have finally chosen life. Even if my daughter turns her back on me, I have reclaimed something no one can take again. I have reclaimed my voice, my dignity, my freedom. And in this quiet house, filled with the hum of small joys and the bright strokes of paint, I finally feel what I thought was lost forever. I feel alive. I sit on my porch one evening, the sun dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet. The cool air brushes against my skin, and for the first time in so many years, I feel at peace. My life is quieter now, smaller in some ways, but also fuller, because it belongs to me. Every breath, every choice, every step, I live them on my own terms. I know some people may look at my story and see only loss, a daughter's betrayal, a son-in-law's cruelty, a granddaughter caught in the middle of a battle she doesn't understand. And yes, the pain is real. It cuts deep, and some wounds may never fully heal. But hidden in the pain is something far greater, the truth that love is not blind sacrifice. For years, I believed being a good father meant giving everything, until nothing remained. I thought my silence kept the peace, that my sacrifices built love. But I was wrong. Silence only fed the hunger of those willing to take. And sacrifice, when demanded instead of cherished, becomes a chain, not a gift. The lesson I learn is simple but hard. Love must have boundaries. To say no is not to stop loving. It is to protect love from being twisted into control. Parents are not meant to surrender their dignity for their children's greed. True love, the kind that lasts, is rooted in respect, and without it, the word family becomes an empty shell. If you are listening to my story and you carry chains like mine, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not alone. Your worth is not measured by how much you give. Your dignity, your voice, your freedom, they matter. It is never too late to reclaim them. I may have lost the image of the family I once dreamed of, but I have gained something far greater, myself. And in finding myself again, I find a new kind of peace, one my wife would have wanted for me, one Sophie may one day understand. So if my story has touched your heart, I ask you to stay with me. Listen to more stories like mine. Share them, carry them, and let them remind you that every father, every person deserves to be seen, respected, and free. Because sometimes the bravest act of love is not in saying yes, but in finding the strength to finally say no